This is Ilm Circle, a learning workshop presented by the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Arizona, or ISBA. Ilm stands for Intentional Learning for Mutual Respect, the foundation of what ISBA is all about.
So let me go ahead and get started with welcoming everyone to tonight's Ilm Circle. My name is Michelle Marion, and I am one of the volunteers for the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Arizona, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to our January Ilm Circle. Our topic tonight is Buddhism, Interfaith, and Intergenerational Collaboration. We have also a few upcoming events that we're excited about at the Islamic Speakers Bureau of Arizona. So next week on February 4th, we have a Living Our Faith Tri-Faith panel. The topic is mourning, rituals, rites, customs, and length of time. And that will be at 6 p.m. I will put the link to that session in the chat here in just a minute. And then later in February, we're very excited to let everyone know about the Youth Interfaith Iftar that will be on February 24th. Teens from 7th grade through 12th grade, again, this is interfaith, so from any background are welcome to attend. It is going to be held in person at the Islamic Center of the Northeast Valley beginning at 4:45. And I will also put the link for that particular event in the chat here in just a minute, so that you have both of those to share with folks or to register for them yourselves. So we're really pleased to be hosting Bhikkhu Vasubandhu, a Buddhist monk at the Dhammapada Sangha here in Phoenix. Vasubandhu serves as the interfaith manager for the Arizona Faith Network, representing North America on International Youth Committee of Religions for Peace. And it's really exciting for us to be able to host Vasubandhu. He is a very young individual. He shares that he's 29 years old, and his studies are in political science and social projects from the Universidad Alberta a Distancia de Mexico. And he has been in the United States for the last 4 years, originally coming from Mexico in Tlaxcala, Mexico. So it's really exciting to be able to welcome Vasubandhu. We will take questions throughout the presentation. So if you have questions, you can either raise your hand and I will apprise Vasubandhu of the question, or you can put them in the chat. Either one is fine. So welcome, Vasubandhu.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I love this opportunity to connect and the opportunity we have to reflect together on interfaith collaboration. I just want to confirm that you can hear me correct and everything is okay. Okay, wonderful. So, as we mentioned, I'm serving in different interfaith organizations, including the Arizona Faith Network, locally, international, and also globally. I have been working for almost 12 years for interfaith collaboration. Since I was 18, I feel in my own path the importance for diverse religions to collaborate with each other for peace. I realize that each of us, all diverse religions, have a very unique perspective, have unique resources, and unique experiences that contribute to create a plural society. So today I will speak to you about this, why for me is important interfaith collaboration, And for me, as a young person, what I hope for all generations to collaborate for this, for peace. Please feel free to always share any questions that you may have. I will be happy to create this as a conversation, more than a presentation, for us to interact with each other. Something that for me has been important is the concept of pluralism, identifying and appreciating the diversity has a opportunity to contribute to the society, the opportunity to enrich all visions with interactions, with collaboration, not only recognizing the diversity, but appreciating, celebrating the diversity. For me also, in all my intersections, being a immigrant here in the United States of America has been a beautiful opportunity to learn the integration to the society. I want also to recognize and to appreciate all our fellow Americans who have migrated to this country, who have experienced this process of immigration, because all of us share different experiences in common. Something that came to my life and has been changed my life is the immigration process. 15 days ago, I became United States citizen, and has been a beautiful opportunity for me to be part of this beautiful country. My hope is to contribute positively to the society of America. I hope that together we can help our society to appreciate this diversity of religions. And the diversity of religions also connect with other kind of diversities, including nationality and many other diversities. Currently here in Arizona, at the Arizona Faith Network, we work with Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, Jews, Muslims, Christians, and each of them share a very unique experience for which we have focused this year to working on peacemaking. But peace looks different for each religion. Sometimes connects with ancestral acknowledge and scriptures that we have. So that's an open question for all of you who are here. What does it mean for you to have or to live in peace? And that's something that you can think about that while we are having this conversation. So for me, peace means also when we create agreements with our differences. For me in my life, peace has been the path in which I listen different opinions, opinions who maybe are completely opposed to my own opinion, but I listen them and I try to understand them. It's not easy trying to understand different opinions, but my hope and my path in Buddhism is teaching me that by deep and mindful listening, we can try to understand other opinions. Part of my practice in Buddhism is meditation. And meditation apply in many different religions in different ways. In my tradition, we focus on the silence. So when we focus on the silence, we try to embrace the present moment, to try to listen any sound that is around us, to try to pay attention to anything that is happening around us, but also within us. Through mindful listening, this is a resource and a practice that personally is helping me to moving forward on the path on peacemaking. So I would like also for you to think about it. What resources, tools, or practices are helping you to find peace in your own life? With interfaith collaboration, we discover all the time the beauty of the diversity. So I open this question also for you to share here in the chat, to ask any questions about that, about peacemaking. Other thing that happened for me during my engagement into interfaith is the concept of religious freedom. So also, what does it mean for you personally, religious freedom? For me, I became Buddhist because of this beauty, human right of religious freedom. I was able to listen, to learn, and to experience different religions. And then from the acknowledge of the diversity, to take my own decision on which specific practice I want to do in my own life, in my own path. And I decided to become Buddhist. Then with the time I decided to become a monk. For my husband has been different. He is Muslim, and my husband has lived this beauty experience in Islam. All the time I'm learning from this beauty path that he is living within Islam. For my mother has been also different. She is member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and she is always helping me to understand this beauty path of the church and Christianity. For my rest of my Mexican family has been the Catholic Church, and for the rest of my American family, the Evangelical Church in different denominations and also non-denominations. So I wonder how is for you in your family? How do you feel? What things and what kind of diversity, of diverse expressions of faith or religion do you find in your own family? Is your family different religion than you? And please feel free to share also in the chat. Also to mute yourself if you feel comfortable. Because that's something that is helping me all the time to recognize that the interfaith work is not only for the outside, but also is for my own family, apply to my daily life. So interfaith is a resource, is a tool, is a practice who can help us to even living in peace and harmony within our own family. Recently, we have different opinions in many things, and practices of the society. So it's also an opportunity to listen to somebody who believes different. On my own family, we are very diverse in many other parts of our life. Also in our language, for example, my American family is only speak English and my Mexican family only Spanish. Sometimes I try to help them to communicate with each other with translation. I remember when I first moved to the United States, I only speak Spanish. I'm still learning. You can say that my accent has been difficult to integrate to the English language. And also to learning the English language has been a beautiful opportunity to appreciate the diversity of communication. So in my family, we find all these kind of difference identities, language, religion, nationality, politics, even many other things that is part of a person, of a individual. So for example, with politics, we also open all the time the conversations for them and for each of us to feel comfortable to share any perspective that we may have, to listen with compassion and to speak with loving kindness. That's something that I'm always learning from my practice in Buddhism, but also from other religions through this work of interfaith dialogue. So I would like to give you some time if somebody of you would like to share any experience that you may have. What does it mean for you to be a peacemaker? What is for you religious freedom? And how this apply to your own family, recognizing the diversity of your own family. So if somebody want to unmute yourself, yes?
So I'm going to suggest, because you had asked two questions, and what does peace look like for each of us? And if you could put, and I've done this with my students, if you could put one word that comes to mind when you hear the word peace, you can either put it in the chat or you could unmute. And this really is something I do with my students every semester. So when you hear peace, what comes to your mind?
Thank you.
Ah, and I'm sorry, iPhone 13, I know that's not your name. So Judy has put compromise in the chat, and if you want to unmute or anyone else add, can't find the unmute. Sorry, it's at mine is at the bottom over on the far left, if that helps.
Maybe I'll jump in here while
Okay,
she's
I
doing.
think
Oh,
I found
there
it.
she is.
Is that
Okay, there we
working?
are. We're hearing you now.
Okay. This is excellent. Thank you. When I hear the word peace, I think of quiet, stillness. Um, I'm a person who was born with hearing and other difficulties. So there are times when I hear nothing but Big Ben or hissing or nothing at all, like you're swimming in a pool and you just, you hear nothing. So for me, that's peace. Now, his concept of compromise, where you do deep mindful listening, that's very hard for those of us who read lips. Somehow people think they should talk to the back of my head. I can't hear you. If I can't see you without my glasses, I can't read your lips. If I'm not in a totally quiet environment so I can use what's left of my hearing, I'm clueless to what's going on. And yet I am very happy.
Yes,
I,
marvelous.
I would say also commenting on your multicultural background and the different directions that your family took. I had a similar upbringing. My grandparents were Native. They watched their families be slaughtered by the US Army in 1906. They were rescued by three nuns and a priest in upstate New York. They were transported to Brooklyn, all the way from way up north, told, put in a Catholic orphanage, and told never tell anyone you're a Native, a Redskin, an Indian, or they will kill you. And having just watched their families be massacred by the US Army, they believed it. So my grandfather took the priest's name who rescued him, William O'Connor. My grandmother had a relative married to a trapper, so they named her Lucille Bigelow. My grandmother drifted to the Catholic faith because the nuns had given her training. She could write her name. She had third grade education. And my father, though, my grandfather, that when they got out of the orphanage, he was probably 14 and she was maybe 10 or 11. They looked for a place to live, and the Jewish people took them in the ghettos in New York City. So they learned Hebrew and Yiddish and Polish and German and Italian. So my grandfather was kosher. My grandmother would toddle off to Mass and learned Latin, and neither one of them knew much English. And it's a culture that doesn't talk. So my father was born into this beautiful conglomeration of people. every time like the rent went up, my grandfather would look for another place to work and they would move to a different neighborhood. And the Jewish people were the most welcoming. They were the least judgmental. They didn't mind his dark skin and black hair and black eyes. So, and we always loved kosher food. My dad married an Irish Catholic woman, and you know what that means. You're learning Latin and Greek, and you're going to Mass, and you're going to all that. So that was that. But my father always maintained the individuality, and so did my grandparents. When it came time for me to reach a greater life path in my late 60s, my sister converted to Islam when she was in her 30s. Visiting their house, when the guy would sing and everybody would rush downstairs and line up, and they would all run around screaming voodoo, voodoo, and then they would do this and they'd all go up and down, up and down. This peace would swell through the house, a silent peace. The oldest man, the grandfather, the father, somebody would lead all the prayers. The ladies would sit in the back. And my children and I, when we would stay a week or two with my sister, we were always amazed. These people would get up in the middle of the night, the thing would make the sound. So after many years of contemplation, I joined Islam in my late 60s. And it has re-sparked my love for Jesus, my love for Moses, David, the Old Testament. Now I have the Quran. It fits beautifully with the tenets of Buddhism. So I feel like my life has been recharged by this interfaith beauty. But for me, peace is lack of sound, lack of movement, and it comes from prayer.
Thank you. That was lovely. That was absolutely lovely. Thank you so much.
Yes,
And
very.
Judy, would you like to add to your thought of compromise?
Yeah, well, I took you seriously. You said one word, and I didn't think it was sufficient. But
It gets us warmed up.
yeah, I was brought up in a Jewish household, and I am Jewish. We tend to be on the disputative side. Um, the flip side of that is that we tend to be critical thinkers.
Mhm.
But there are there are strains within every religion that are very uncompromising. And I have some beefs with them because I feel that in order to get along with other human beings, you have to have mutual respect. And on issues where you come together, you need to compromise, whether that's being a vegetarian when people are vegetarians or um, finding a way around your disputes rather than wearing your disputes as armor. Um, I've been very frustrated by what's gone on in Israel and Gaza because I don't feel like there are heroes. It's all just a horrible mess, and it's really torn a lot of us apart. So I when I think of peace, obviously a lack of war, but also I think that the people who are invested in throwing hand grenades into compromise um, are enemies of peace. And I think they have to learn how to compromise, take a breath, and say, we're all human beings. We're all created in the image of God, and there's a way to get around what we disagree about and find a way to find things that we agree about.
Thank you, Judy. That's very beautiful. And our other friend, can you remind us your name? Yes, please. Thank you.
Oh, I don't think I told you my name. My name is Mary Margarita. Y mi
Oh,
primer lenguaje fue en español y latín, no inglés.
muchas
Prefiero
gracias.
español. But today, because we are hosted by a beautiful English-speaking lady, I will use my university language.
Thank you, Margarita. It's wonderful. This
Mary Margarita. Mary Margarita. If
very
you're
much.
Irish Catholic, you have to be named for the Blessed Virgin. You have to be named Mary, and then they got to give you a second name to distinguish you from all your cousins: Mary Patricia, Mary Ann, Mary Catherine, blah 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 blah. So my first name is Mary Margarita, In English, it's Mary Margaret. In Europe, it's Brigitte.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because in German and Russian and my father's other languages, Mary Margarita and all that doesn't make sense. So we call me Brigitte.
Yes, that's
But
very
mostly you need to learn to sign to talk to me because if I'm usually not listening. It isn't possible. But today it's beautiful. I love the Zoom.
Thank you. Yes, this is so important. I'm
Mm.
experiencing currently a visual impairment,
Oh,
having problems with my vision. So I really understand the importance of accessibility.
mhm.
Please let me know if there is something you don't understand from me. Okay?
Oh yeah. I have one good eye, thank the Lord. Very happy with this one eye. And I have about 30% hearing in this ear. But I've loved it. I've been this way since I was a small child. I've had service dogs since I was 3. I don't go places alone because I walk into walls, I walk in front of cars. So it's a beautiful experience. Vision is a difficult one. I don't know if you've ever had a seizure or stroke where you go completely blind and then it comes back, but it's a real test of patience, but beauty. It's again that quiet world that I love. No distractions. But that's my internal peace. World peace is, as I believe her name was Gail said, absolutely compromise. And
Thank,
the reason my family's never been allowed to become Jewish and go to synagogue is none of the women were practicing Judaism. All the men practiced it, and the women went to the Catholic Church.
yeah.
We still eat the good food, and we still party with everybody, and we still light the Hanukkah candles, and we still do all that. But we don't. We would go to synagogue, but we were never accepted. I don't know how to express that. I hope it's changed now. I know there's reform and all these different like names of different things, but I find if I just be really quiet and I'm at the temple and I just pay attention to what's going on, I can understand it and I'm very happy. And then eat good food.
Thank you, Mary Margarita. Also, here on Zoom, we have the option to select captions, to activate the captions. That could also help.
Well, I read lips better than I read the captions.
Okay,
I
that's
just
good.
stare at people's faces.
That's good to know. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes, that's the other part that I love about Interfaith because we are engaged to appreciate, to embrace, to celebrate, and to do everything to integrate all diversity of religions. But that includes many kind of diversities, including accessibility, languages, and many, many other kind of diversity. So
Well,
that's
in the 60s and the 70s, there were churches that had people signing, and this was great. Or I could go up front where I could read lips of whoever was talking. Then, when I lived in New Jersey, there was one church that always had a service for the deaf people where the sermon, or whatever was going on, all the readings, they would be given them before. They would learn all the signs. And this was the old style, the letters. Now they have the new stuff, which you all have on your phones. Yes, no, maybe eat, drink, all the emojis. But oh my God, it was so packed, that church. It was always packed. There was so much more need than there was opportunity. So you're right. I do feel that interfaith, I mean, I don't know how blind people, I guess hopefully they have some hearing, but let's welcome everyone, including my little hearing assisting dogs, my service animals, my wheelchairs. You know, it's wonderful to feel welcome, even if some person only knows like one or two.
7 o'clock.
yes, completely.
Yeah, it's very welcoming.
Yes, it's very important for me too because I lose when I start my program with my eyes, I lose almost 80% of my vision.
Mm.
I have been recovering a little bit, but for us as people who need accessibility accommodations, it's also very important also to bring this identity, our experiences to interfaith, to create a movement or all diversity of identities and expressions. And today we are talking about that Buddhism interconnects with interfaith and also intergenerational collaboration. So the other thing that I want to talk with all of you is about intergenerational collaboration. I'm 29 years old and I started working on this when I was 18. You can also share if you feel comfortable, how old are you, but you don't have to. But we are different generations, and different generations need to collaborate because we, as a young people, we can learn a lot from older generations. And we hope that the older generations feel appreciated. We want to listen older generations because all the wisdom that older generations have. Religions teach us that generations continue all this legacy of our religion because religions have exist for thousands of years. Buddhism for more than 2000 of years. And each religion have a lot of connections and generations who have continued this wisdom and practice. So that's my hope also that we can do more of intergenerational collaboration. What means that we as a youth want to continue the legacy of older generations. For also because we as a youth, someday we will be older and we will need to pass everything the same to the younger generation. So also, if there is any experiences that you may have with collaborating with different generations. Recently, I have been also elected to be part of the United Nations Environment Program, Faith for Earth Youth Council, elected to be a co-chair for this council. And has been a beautiful opportunity and a big engagement for me to be so young and to have this engagement. But also, I feel that it's very important for us as a youth to always listen the older generation, to never forget that we will be older someday.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we have to remember you can't read cursive. The cursive handwriting,
I don't think I
I
can read.
write notes, and my friends in their 30s and 40s, they kind of get it. My children who are in their late 30s, they can read it. But a lot of young people, they don't know how to read cursive. They look at it and they're like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm being a boomer. You know, I need to print more. But yeah, I think that is a big challenge because you look at so many of the faiths, especially the Catholic Church in my local area, the people in their 80s and 90s are still coming maybe, but the youth is disaffected. They're apathetic or they're anti because of some of the forced concepts, the rigidity, as Judy was saying, of some people, not to accept that, my son is curious if he's they or if he's a he or if he's a she, and he's doubting and he's questioning. And the priest talks to him and says, well, you should go to the monastery and become a priest. I'm like, I'm his mother. Let's not encourage that. He's not going to be celibate. That ain't right. And I got in all kinds of trouble, got kicked out of that church because I said that right to his face. And my son was like, Mom, what do you mean celibate? I'm like, son, you're 8. We'll talk about this soon. But you know what I mean? Some of these things, like the concept of the Trinity, alienated my children. It alienated me. I accepted it on blind faith because my dad told me to make my mom happy. But if we can reach out to youth, I believe that food and time is marvelous for bringing people together. um, and just walk up to people and say, hey, what are you doing Friday night, Thursday night? Come share a meal with a bunch of people and let us be open to having time together. A lot of lonely folks out there, and everybody loves good food.
Yeah. Yes, of course. That's beautiful. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that we are doing at Arizona
Mm-hmm.
for, to bring people from different religions. And we have partnered in many opportunities with the Islamic Speakers Baruch of Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
We're very happy to having this partnership, and we hope to continue this partnership. I'm very grateful for having this conversation today. Just want to confirm with you, Michelle, how much time do we still have?
We have about 25 minutes left, and there is a question in the chat from Judy that fits very nicely with exactly where we're at. I think we'd all benefit from this. Have you knowledge of has Buddhism been the subject of hatred, discrimination that some of the other religions, Judaism, Islam, have experienced either in the United States or in Mexico? So we can look at this from like a cross-cultural perspective.
Thank you.
Tibet.
Question. Just want to confirm. So we want to know if we as a Buddhist, experience any kind of discrimination, right? Compared with other people that in Islam and Judaism experience discrimination. That's correct? Okay. Just want to confirm that I understand. Okay, the question. So for me, I have experience with people from other religions, but not with people that are secular, agnostics, or atheists. I have no experience discrimination from them, but I have from the people who practice other religion. Sometimes because they will hope that I be part of their religion. We also have experience very only one, to be very specific, only one time I have experienced discrimination within Buddhist community from other Buddhists. And that has been because of lineage, because we don't have the same lineage and we have different perspectives. So yes, that had happened only one time with somebody who is a Buddhist, and have happened other times with people who practice other religions.
And Mary Margarita, you have a question?
Yes. Is your Buddhism related to like Tibet and the persecution of the Dalai Lama and what the Chinese are trying? You're in the same? Is there only one type of Buddhism, or is there like Tibetan and Mexican and Laotian?
Thank you. There is many kinds of schools
Mhm.
from Buddhism. So my school, the founder of my community specifically, the Dhammapada Sangha, the Dhammapada community, the name came from the book that is called Dhammapada, the same name. So this book is part of the canon of Buddhism, the canon that is like the Bible, if we want to compare, even that is not fair to compare in the same way, but if we want to compare, so we have a canon similar to Christianity have a Bible. So this canon or scriptures is called Tripitaka. So one of these books is called Dhammapada. It's only one book of all the canon and many other scriptures. So that's the name of my community, Dhammapada, and the founder is from Argentina. So my master is called Sifu Koyo Samadhi.
Oh, Sifu.
Yes,
Sifu is Chinese.
yes, that's right.
It's Chinese, yeah.
He found the community, and then we continue this community and have a temple in Argentina, and in Mexico City we have community. But there is other schools. There is Zen Soto,
Then,
Zen Rinzai, and other kind of Mahayana expressions. There is also another expression that is called Theravada. And Theravada is a school who practice the beauty of the connection and the legacy of the Buddha Siddhartha Gautama. You will recognize the difference of Buddhists sometimes because of the color of the clothing that we are wearing.
and the hair.
We have different leadership. So, for example, you mentioned Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is part of this tradition from Tibet that also connects with the school called Vajrayana. Yes. So there is many diversity within Buddhism. I have only experienced one time, as I mentioned, with one person who don't feel comfortable for the my community and the practice that we have. But most of the time, in my experience, there is a good relationship between all diverse Buddhists. I have many friends who are monks and nuns from different schools, and all of them wear different color of their robes. Some of them red, some of them a little bit of yellow and red, some of them also orange,
Mm.
gray, and brown. So it's the different colors of robes of clothing.
And Mary Margarita, another question?
Yes. I think Michelle said in the beginning that you are the head monk or serving as a monk here in the temple in Phoenix. Is there more than one? Because I have been to a beautiful one where friends got married and it was big and it was way far away from where I was living, like, I don't know, up off the 17 or something. I don't know where we were, but it was wonderful to go to the wedding. Is there more than one temple here in the Maricopa County area?
Thank you for asking. So I'm only a Buddhist monk. I'm not leading a community here in the United States. I I belong and connect directly with my community in Mexico,
Mhm.
but I'm supporting in sharing about
Mhm.
the diversity of Buddhist communities because we have many friends that are part of different communities here in Arizona, from Zen, from Theravada,
Mhm.
also Kadampa, who is a very beautiful community. All of them are beautiful. We also have a temple that is very historical, that is the Arizona Buddhist Temple.
That's
I would
right.
recommend also to visit. There is very good friends who we have at the Arizona Buddhist Temple.
Is,
So share with
is that the one that's up towards like Prescott or Flagstaff or something with the stela or the stupa, or what do you call it? That
I
one?
think that's a different one. There
That's a
is one that is in Flagstaff.
Flagstaff, yeah.
In
We
Kadam.
drove up there. I was lost. I didn't know where I was, but it was beautiful in the middle of the woods.
Yes, I think you are mentioned because that's, in my understanding, that's the bigger that I have seen in Flagstaff is from the tradition called Kadampa, Kadampa. Kadampa. Yes, I think I
Mhm.
spelled that correctly. Yes, so this community is beautiful. So yes, we have different temples from different communities. So my work and my duty that I see as a monk is to share with all of you this beauty diversity of Buddhism for you to meet all this diversity of Buddhism. My community specific is in Mexico, but I'm here also supporting all Buddhist communities.
Beautiful.
So, and there's another question from Judy. Is there any dogma or rule within Buddhism that has an intolerance of homosexuality?
Hmm.
Oh, that's a very good question. In my understanding, and that's something that we can open the conversation. If you may have any friend who is Buddhist, we can open the conversation. Because in my understanding, there is nothing that against LGBTQ plus people. That's my understanding. And I have been conversations with many other Buddhists. I have a friend who is in Japan. He is a Buddhist monk. He also do makeup and is openly part of the LGBT plus community. Is always supporting this movement for integration of our diversity. So we used to have something that we call a rainbow sticker. My friend from Japan invite us to put this sticker. It's a sticker of hands together, as we do in Buddhism. We have the colors of the rainbow. So
Hmm.
invite us to put the sticker at the entrance of the Buddhist temples that we are serving to express our support for the LGBT plus community. So some communities here in the United States, in Mexico, and many other countries are openly supported for the LGBT community.
I was very surprised that your partner, your husband, is Muslim and in a male-male relationship, because I know there's a lot of branches of Islam, but I tend to hang around with a lot of Palestinians and Somalis and people from North Africa, and some are very open and some are very rigid. And it feels just like Christianity to me. It's like, okay, but you go your way, I go my way. But, I find that they're not, or at least maybe I'm blessed that my friends are not that judgmental, because I have a child who's they, a beautiful child, 6'6" of they, them. And a lot of people in my family knew there was a twin flame. They knew there was something very special. My father talked about it in his culture. They call it twin flame. You know, they call it, I don't know what they call it otherwise. A person that floats between all of the genders, that they have this beautiful empathy and beauty that just can't be wrapped in one picture. And he floats between the two. I love it.
You're sharing very, very
I think I'm too insecure to explore my male side, and I love kissing my husband.
Thank you, Margarita. Yes, it's beautiful that because I have many family members who don't agree with LGBT plus community,
Mm,
don't agree with gay marriage, and I still respect them and listening them and try to understand them. So that's also my invitation to
mhm.
try to understand anything that may be different of what we believe.
Well, I think in this culture, like I'm a big supporter of the Margaret T. Hance Park here in Phoenix, and she was a very early mayor, and she lived with a lady, and they slept in the same bedroom, but nobody said anything. I had grandaunts that had female companions for decades in the 1920s, 30s. Nobody nobody interfered on if one, you know what I mean? My grandaunt and Mary Murphy, they shared a house together, they traveled together. Mary Murphy wore pants. My grandaunt tended to be a bit more, all femmed up with feathers, and she was quite dramatic. But nobody said, are they sleeping in the same bedroom? It was nobody, they left them alone. I had an uncle who had a man he was with, like Herbert Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover, sorry, J. Edgar Hoover. He lived with his secretary forever. He wasn't open about it, but it was a well-known secret that he was gay. And it just, I don't know if hiding it made it more comfortable for them. I never asked my granddad because it was none of my business. I loved both of them. They just shared a big house together. That's all I thought.
Thank you for sharing that experience.
Mm-hmm.
That has been also part, has the last question we have about any kind of discrimination. That has been also part of discrimination that I have experienced because to be a cisgender male gay person, that has been also some discrimination that I have experienced with
What
people.
does cisgender mean? I forgot.
Yes, that means that the identity, the gender that I feel identify is the same gender in which my my
Oh,
birth
your
and my
body was born. Okay. Okay.
yes,
Okay. There's a lot of complicated words that.
yes. And I apologize if it's difficult for me sometimes explain because the English language, but I hope that you can understand me well. Yes, thank you. I think we have more questions in the chat.
So I have a question talking about the intergenerational elements and wisdom. Um, so I teach sociology and I teach at the college level, and I believe that not only elderly people have wisdom, but I think young people have wisdom as well, and we can learn as much from young people as we can from elderly people, and oftentimes both groups are overlooked with regard to their wisdom. Is that something that is valued in Buddhism as well as the wisdom from young people and their experiences?
Thank you for that, Michelle. I really appreciate that you recognize that also young people have wisdom. That means a lot for me because sometimes I feel that when I was younger and I listening other young people, sometimes some young people feel disconnected from other generations, feel that other generations don't listen them. So I really appreciate that you recognize the wisdom of young people. From my understanding and my experience in Buddhism, in my own community, I have felt that my community and Buddhist community appreciate my experience as a young person. I received the full ordination few years ago. In my process to become a monk in my community, when I received the full ordination as a young person, the Buddhist community integrated me completely in serving them. And I felt that they appreciate my experience as a young person. All the time, I feel that. I feel that because I'm always serving people who are older than me. Never I have served people that is younger than me, but that I can feel the appreciation that the older generation have to me. I know that sometimes to have a person that is too young to help him with the meditation or to serve in the community could be sometimes difficulty of communication between generations. But I have always feel that older generation appreciate my experience as a young person. Yes, thank you. And I hope that we continue on this because it's very necessary. I will be older someday, and I hope that the younger generation respect me and appreciate my experiences.
Yeah, I agree. And that's oftentimes talking to my students, they do feel as if they're invisible and their knowledge is not valued. And I think all knowledge is valuable, and people should not be made to feel invisible because of age.
Because of age, that's
Yeah,
right.
yes, definitely. I kind of wanted to bring us back. You had asked a question earlier of what tools help us to find peace, and you shared, um, your interest in listening, and my one of my tools that I use to find peace is to help others. I feel really grateful to be in a position to be able to help others, and that gives me a sense of peace. I'm curious with Mary Margarita, what tools you are using to find peace.
I think Mary Margarita, you are muted.
It's,
I will be attentive when you mute yourself. Yes.
so if you push the space bar down,
There it is.
there you go.
Mm. I feel like culturally, I am never going to have a compromise with others. I'm not comfortable. I haven't found, now I take it back. When I'm at the masjid or I'm with people who are Islamic, there's a tremendous peace that comes following the prayers. But then when they start getting into their cultural stuff, like you don't cover your hair, I can see this, your fingernails, whatever, right? Um, I'm because I'm a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then people are like, well, What do you mean you're kosher? I said, I'm kosher. Okay. Oy vey. What do I have to say? You know what I mean? I know Yiddish. I watched Judge Judy just to hear her say kerfuffle. So, but so it's always been hard for me to fit in, and but I accept me. I know that everything the thing I appreciate the most from returning to Islam and returning to that path of peace is that everything that happens to me was meant to happen to me and is good for me. So peace for me is accepting exactly where I am right now. Whether it's I can't hear at all, like a couple of weeks ago, or like my dog is dying, my guy's mother is dying. This is the week of things going away, and I'm like, this is where I'm at. This is the beauty of my moment. So I believe that acceptance by me gives me the personal peace. And I can look around at my elders and at younger people and say, those people who lived in the now, like my dad, who accepted everything, he was Pooh Bear, Piglet. What's your favorite day? Oh, today, Pooh. you know, that's if you, there is really, and you hear these things. There's no past, there's no future, there's only the moment right here. And are you focused on that moment? Do you feel it? Are you living all your senses? That to me is peace. Brokering peace with other communities, other humans, does not come from me. They don't want my dogs there. They don't want to get me a sign language interpreter. My son has to go to court on the 10th of February. I'm begging them for someone to sign. I'm begging the Tempe courthouse so that I can understand what's going on with my son. It is what it is. I've been this way since the 60s. I'm used to being discriminated against, left out of meetings, told that I don't fit in, and yet I've been allowed to be a very successful person. I have a master's in business. I have a doctorate in pharmacology. I laugh when you say you're only 29. I was a district manager for Merck at the age of 27. I was promoted. Everybody said it was affirmative action because I was female. I'm like, no, I have an MBA from an engineering school. I have a bachelor's of science and I worked for the government for years. You just don't know me. Oh, well, I'm like, you don't know me, but you prove yourself, you know. I had people working for me, Cubanos who were fabulous, and other people that were just really upset that their boss was 27 and they were in their 40s, their 50s, overlooked for promotions, all this kind of stuff. And I told him, let me show you why I'm here, you know? And then you suddenly keep moving up the ladder and you're looking around and then you start to get a few gray hairs. So don't worry, you'll catch up with us old people soon enough. It doesn't take much, but must be beautiful to be on the cusp of 30 and looking forward to a beautiful path where you can be a shining light to bring people into that peace, which whenever I practice Buddhism, which I do, because it fits really well with everything else. It's a basic thing. My best friend in college, she took a Jesuit course for 6 months on Buddhism, taught by Jesuits in New York. So believe me, we think it's groovy. It has a lot to share. And
Thank you so much, Margarita.
oh,
And thank you so much, Michelle. Has been beautiful to having this conversation. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak about Buddhism, interfaith, and intergenerational collaboration.
mm,
That's my invitation for today, that we can continue doing this together. We cannot do this alone. We need you. We need each of you in this process for promoting peace, and that we may listen any perspective that is different from what we think and to try to understand them. Always to listen in all diverse of perspectives, even if they are opposed of what we believe. That's my invitation for us to working for
now,
peace.
deaf community, we don't listen so much as observe. We
Yes.
immerse ourselves and observe the world, because when you can't hear, you're left with whatever you can see or feel. So when I laugh when people say, we need to listen carefully, I'm like, deaf person over here, would y'all watch it? Because I got, put your fingers in your ears and tell me what happens. Pretend you're underwater. But there is a way to go peacefully in this world, no matter what compromise, no matter what challenge that the earth or the God, the creator has made for you, whether it's lack of vision, lack of hearing, lack of speech, there is a way for us to involve all those people.
Yeah,
Please feed us good food.
completely. Thanks for helping me with that.
Good food.
Because to know that we need to integrate all diversities. So thank you for helping me with that. To communicate effectively and to say, to observe. That's beautiful, Mary Margarita. Thank
To
you.
be present, you know what I mean? Don't be afraid to reach out and, welcome someone.
Yes.
Just people just know like the thumbs up and thumbs down, which comes from emojis, or eat, drink, call me. All that came from the International Sign Language. They put it all into emojis. When people tell me they don't know how to sign, I'm like, your phone does. Your phone can find you the emoji. Like if I point like this, my whole family tells me what time it is.
Yes, yes. That's what I'm learning because with my vision, I press two times and I can hear what
Yeah.
time because sometimes it was difficult to see.
I have a watch that talks to me and a watch that vibrates. I have
Mm.
a heart monitor that talks and vibrates. And I have service dogs that nudge and poke and remind me of dinner, remind me of medicine. There's fabulous ways of enjoying this beautiful life from a different perspective.
Yes, that's very, very beautiful. I'm very, very happy that we have this opportunity to hear from and to observe from different perspectives, different experiences of life. Thank you, Mary Margarita, for helping us to observe these experiences. Thank you, Michelle, for hosting beautiful time, this circle, to having this connection.
You're very welcome. It was our pleasure to have this discussion tonight. And we're very grateful for your taking time out. I know you're in the middle of another event. And so I will close this out with on February 18th, we will reconvene with another Ilm Circle. And the topic is the process of Christology. So without further ado, I'm going to say thank you to everybody for joining us tonight and for this very engaging discussion. And of course, thank you to Joe and Astra for the behind the scenes logistics for the Ilm circles. So have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.